The British House of Commons is going on vacation, but Boris Johnson's problems are growing every day. A final appearance in Parliament by the Prime Minister before the holiday session provides a picture that satirists can only wish for. You have long got used to technical difficulties during video conferences, but the irony of this situation was remarkable. The weekly Q&A session for the Prime Minister in the House of Commons, the PMQs on Wednesday, began with a few aggressive statements by Labour leader Keir Starmer that he was standing in his place in the House of Commons. Prime Minister Boris Johnson was on the screens on the wall, sitting against a grey background. During one of Johnson's replies, the sound cut off, which is why the House of Commons Speaker Lindsay Hoyle interrupted him. Johnson looked irritated. "Can you hear me?" he asked a couple of times. When he asked if he should repeat the whole answer, the members of the House of Commons yelled in a mixture of amusement and horror. "No," said Lindsay Hoyle, "the end is enough." Boris Johnson's end would really be the enough, but I don't see it coming now. Johnson is currently in quarantine at the Prime Minister's country residence in Chequers, northwest of London, because he had contact with a corona-positive Health Minister Sajid Javid. This is happening these days, especially in the UK, where the number of cases is higher than anywhere else in Europe. But especially in this week, which began with a grandly named Freedom Day, a Prime Minister with technical difficulties on his quarantine estate is a picture that no satirist could have imagined better. It is also the last picture of the Prime Minister in the House of Commons before the summer recess. From Friday, the Parliament will pause until September. Although the break only affects the debates, the governance will of course continue. The situation does not allow any recovery. Johnson's agenda is currently growing proportionally with the numbers of cases. It is growing every day. The Northern Ireland Johnson Protocol, the refugees landing on the Channel coast, the never-ending allegations of his former chief advisor Dominic Cummings, plus the uncertainty in a country with almost no corona rules, but full of infected people. It is perhaps a good thing that people are mostly in quarantine. And above all, have one thing: a lot of time. For the conservative to right-wing media in the kingdom, the refugee problem is a particularly grateful topic. On Monday, at least 430 people came in boats from France to the United Kingdom. On Tuesday, another 287. In total, the number of people who fled this way to England rose to 8,452 this year, which is already more than in the whole of last year. The British Home Secretary Priti Patel has now agreed to transfer 62.7 million euros to France to improve border security on the French side. It's about more patrols, the number of officers is to be doubled, and it is also about the increased use of drones. France has, said Patel on Wednesday in the House of Commons, a different interpretation of the saving of life. Yeah, she has none, so everybody has a different one. The French Coast Guard does not stop boats, but rather accompany them into British waters, she says. What role does the fate of the individual people play who risk their lives to get from one country to another in rubber dinghies across the Channel could not be heard on Wednesday. However, some Conservative MPs put pressure on Patel to do more than send money. The subject will keep Patel and Johnson busy for a while. It's similar with Dominic Cummings. He also regularly ensures that he does not disappear from the Prime Minister's agenda, although Johnson tries to ignore his former chief advisor. An interview was broadcast on Tuesday evening in which Laura Kuenssberg, the political director of the public broadcaster BBC, questioned Cummings, and sometimes sits across from him stunned. Cummings has been shooting at Johnson regularly, preferably via Twitter, since he retired as chief advisor last November, and he claims to want to tell the whole truth about Johnson's ineptitude. In the much-noticed BBC interview, he passed Johnson over in seemingly complete frankness, culminating in the statement that he and several others had considered removing Johnson from the post of Prime Minister days after the election was won. One of the central allegations of Cummings is always that Johnson is controlled by his wife, Carrie Symonds. She tried to bring complete clowns into key positions in order to increase her influence, said Cummings, among other things. Well, the boss clown is, and no, okay. In addition, Johnson wrote in several SMS messages that it was only those over 80 who would die of corona anyway, and so there was no reason for a lockdown. Allegedly. Downing Street contradicted the allegations in a statement. Keir Starmer read the alleged Johnson SMS in the House of Commons on Wednesday. The Labour leader is not a polemical opposition politician, but on Wednesday he took the opportunity, in Johnson's physical absence, at least again and again, to point out how contradictory the handling of the coronavirus is at the moment. The lifting of almost all rules, while at the same time compulsory quarantine for contact persons goes until August 16th. The country is facing a summer of chaos, said Starmer. At the moment, England is mainly in a summer that seems a bit un-British. It's hot, the temperatures rise to over 30 degrees every day, the cafes and ice cream parlors are full, although the uncertainty is particularly evident there. Some wear masks, others don't. It's a strange back and forth. Shortly after the PMQs were over on Wednesday, Starmer also became part of the summer chaos. One of his children had tested positive, his spokesman said. Starmer would immediately go to quarantine. It is the 4th time for him. But doesn't that mean that almost everyone that was in Parliament that day? We will see how that goes, how the social distancing was there. I'll see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen.